Hi, everybody. Lee Scott here. Thank you for watching and or listening to this week's episode of Leading with Lee. I'm so honored because today I have a great guest. And before I introduce him, if you have not done it yet, subscribe to Leading on YouTube and all podcasting platforms. The guest I have today has some things that he's going to really share with us. But without further ado, I like to welcome my friend. He is a CEO. He's a business owner. He knows everybody. I mean, everybody knows him and he knows everybody. Please welcome to the podcast and vlog, my friend, Dexter Sullivan.
What's up, man?
Well, Dex, thank you for coming on and being a part of Leading. So let's I just want you to share a little bit about what you do and how's it going for you at this particular moment? Because I know it's a lot of weather stuff going on right now. This episode's coming out in March, but it's a lot of weather stuff happening. How have you been doing as we get into the first quarter of the year?
Listen, I'm cold. It was 3 degrees when I woke up this morning, man. And I'm completely over it. I had to go to Chicago this weekend, and literally the wind chill was -15, and my phone was saying zero. So I'm completely over this freezing February, but it's Black History Month, so I'm still thankful for the month, and I'm turning up, I'm celebrating, but it's cold. But I don't know why we as Black people pick the coldest month.
That's a whole other conversation that we're not going to have.
We need to call
right now.
Carter G. Woodson.
For real, and ask some questions, brother, because I'm wondering, why did you pick? He could have picked June, just pick a summer month. Like, that would have been great, but let's move on from that. But I'm glad that you're doing well. So let's jump right into the conversation. I kind of want to talk to you specifically about this idea of vision and legacy. I'm recently just listening to you share about this idea on your YouTube page and sharing about your thoughts about how we should look at legacy and different things like that. So as far as that is concerned, what are some, in what ways, when you look at legacy, how do you look at and think about legacy and vision? Like, I've always wanted to ask you.
Well, I think it depends on the person, the specifics of that. But for me, legacy has to be generational. So it has to touch someone that comes after me, whether that is a child, a family member, a friend, a mentees, a nation, a city, a church, a business. Someone is coming after you. And so legacy forms planning, and it develops systems that cause for transfer to be effective. And if we're going to have legacy builders in our generation, we're going to have people that will focus on planning for the future, but not necessarily their future, but the future of those coming behind.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great answer. It's something that you said in the video concerning that specific idea, which I think you're saying right now, is that we have to recognize that it's not just about us, and it shouldn't just stop with us. I find that to be something that's necessary. And with that in mind, do you think that legacy can operate without having vision connected to it in some way, shape, form, or fashion? Or are those two things supposed to like move together in a lot of ways?
I think in a way they are synonymous. And depending on the individual, you're right, they would be braided together. That your vision hopefully would be a vision of legacy. Some people have a very singular vision, and their vision is about them. And we have to be really careful about ambition, because you can be ambitious and go after things. And when you have obtained them, they benefit no one but you. And wait.
Don't walk past that. Say that again, because I think that's very weighty what you just said.
Ambition is a dangerous thing, because what it is partial truth. You believe the greatness about you, and you understand that you are great and that you have abilities and skills that will produce a result. And the dangerous thing about human beings is that once we have an experience, we're rather defensive with that experience, whether that's an experience with ourselves or other people experiencing us, or an experience in the presence of God where we were facilitators. A lot of times we think that we had a lot to do with that, and we become misled in our ambition, and our vision remains very acute and very narrow, when our vision should be it should have scope to it. There's a word in the Bible, episcopos, is where we get the word episcopal, and it deals with the measure and the space that an individual is granted when they are fulfilling their purpose or their calling. And we have to really obtain vision and understand that it's bigger than ourselves. And though we may be seeing ourselves expressing through the vehicle of vision that we have at the moment, that vision does not transmit and transfer, or Roberts used to say that success without a successor is failure. Wow. And our vision must prepare to be succeeded. And I am not a success until those that work with me and those that are working in a position where I'm responsible for them, until they can do my job, I am not a success. And so for me, and I believe for many leaders, our vision must be legacy driven.
Wow. I mean, that's so meaty. I'm probably gonna say meaty a lot because, and you low key exegeted the text on the slick, but it's fine.
I do love the Bible.
I know, a man of the word. I respect that and I honor that and I thank God for it. So let's kind of stay in that vein. How is that translating into how you're leading your organizations? Because I know, Dex, I kind of joke with you about it, but really you do a lot and you have learned to be effective at being whatever you need to be in whatever capacity that you're in. So how are you figuring out how to continuously push vision in your organizations, continue to perpetuate vision in your organizations? How are you learning to do that?
I almost have to be honest to say, well, I'm going to be honest and say, I can't really answer that question because we are the sum total of our experiences,
right? And
our leadership is the sum total of the crushing in our lives. And so it would take me days and weeks to recount all of the things that have caused me to lead in the way that I do. But simply put, I believe that a person's essence in leadership is really based upon how they see the world and how they see themselves and how they see others. And I'm a person that is very conscious of time, and I am very aware of the imminence of death. I'm not fearful of death, and I actually, welcome it as a vehicle when it comes, and I want to be ready for that experience. But being aware of that, I am always counting, and not in the way of fear, but just in a way of making sure that function fully is present and that I'm fulfilling everything that is in me to do. I'm like my pastor, Bishop Jakes, who says, at the end of the day, I will outwork anybody in the room because I'm hungry and I want to accomplish what it is that I know I've been sent here to accomplish. And so I'm working to get the things out of me God has put in me for what's coming behind me. That is my race. And Maya said, I stand as one, but I stand as 10,000. And I feel that sentiment that I represent those that have gone before me and those that are coming after me. And I want to make sure that I've done my work when my work is done.
Yeah. That's so good. It's funny because today I was even thinking about this interview and this conversation with you. Is legacy can look like so many things, right? Vision looks like so many different things. So you're talking about how are you impacting the people that you're leading from a business standpoint. Obviously, we want to fulfill purpose. I think that's everybody who has some sense about themselves wants to fulfill what they're put in the world to do. But how is that translating for you when it comes down to in the relationships that you have, whether outside of business? How are you investing into your friendships as it relates to legacy and vision? Because I think I'm giving a preface here to my question, but one thing I always think about anytime I think about legacy or just vision is we only talk about vision as it relates to what we want to accomplish, but we never really talk about vision as it relates to who we want to impact. So, like, what are some of your thoughts about how you implement that in relationships and other aspects of your life?
Yeah, first it's with honesty.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to be able to be transparent and honest with those closest to me about the most authentic parts of myself. And I think that coming to a place of comfort within, and really being able to communicate what it is that you need, what it is that you desire, those are important things in our relationships with family and friends and those that are close to us. And so for me, it first starts with honesty and then getting into one another's story. I had a conversation earlier today with a friend of mine. We've been friends now, oh gosh, over a decade. And we met
Love
my
those
senior
friendships.
year at ORU. Oh, those are the best friendships, man. I've got friends now that I've had for 20 years. Now that's saying I'm getting a little old and I'm good with that. But yeah, man, those are the ones that, it just is what it is. But I was talking to this friend today and I'm in the process of doing something with the property, and he's had a lot of success in property through the years. And I was wanting his advice just on how I was going about some things today. And I mean, we're basically family at this point. So it was no question, we're sharing advice on building our lives. And that has become a nature of the relationship. If a relationship is not reciprocal, and if there is no give and take, natural give and take. I'm not a transactional person. I'm a very relational person.
Wow.
And so you could give me something and it not do anything for me if it felt transactional, if there was something tied to it.
Right.
But if there's love involved and it's genuine and, I'm that kind of an individual. So building the quality of relationships in your life that support you usually in large part has to do with how you love and support other people.
Wow.
And so I have tried to make myself authentically a lover of people. My personal mission is to reach people, to love people, and to build people. And I believe that as I do that for others, that it will happen for the communities that they are a part of, their families, their cities, their neighborhoods. And I believe that it'll come back to me. So I think at the end of the day, it just comes down to how you choose to do for others. That's really the value in building the village. Another layer to that, over the last few years, I've done a lot of inner work to discover how I could serve the African-American community. I've always had a large passion for my race and contributing to our story. I love books. I have hundreds of books in this room, and it's getting ridiculous. I need to get another bookshelf. The majority of my library is lending to the African-American experience, African history. And, I was like, Lord, how do I deal with that part of me and reconcile my reality? Because at the time I was working in predominantly white institutions. And it's a long story. I won't get into all of that, but I ended up making some transitions and some sacrifices to put me in a position where I could do that more effectively and freely. And it's one of the most costly decisions I've ever made, but one of the most fruitful decisions of my entire life. I changed my life with a decision. And I encourage everyone to become honest with yourself, make the decisions that you need to, and do your work. Because if you do those things, you will arrive where you want to be.
Dexter, I think you said a whole mouthful right there, but you tried to walk past it. I'm not gonna let you walk past it. That no, see what you said. No, I actually have questions about that, because even though this episode is gonna come out after Black History Month, I think we don't stop being Black after the month is over, right? We still have to deal with the realities of, and I mean, there's a large diaspora of people who listen or may watch Leading with Lee, so this is just not Black exclusive in this, but all of us come from different experiences. You don't have to share it all, but how did you figure out how to navigate that? Because that's something I personally am experiencing, where there's a reckoning happening within my soul or within my mind about, hey, I am a Black man, or for another person, it may be I'm a woman, or I am a Latino person, or I'm whatever. They may have a different set of circumstances, and they're trying to reconcile that within their work. Like, just kind of share, what was that like, and what are some of the decisions that you made? Because if nobody else needs to hear, I need to hear it. I'm trying to figure that out right now.
Well, I mean, I had to make tough decisions. I had, in my career, allowed myself, and the biggest word there is allow, because we have to take responsibility for our lives. Otherwise, you'll get nowhere. If you blame people, even if they are the culprits, you get nowhere. And so I took myself and I made myself responsible for where I had arrived, working, making great money, working with people whose values did not reflect my own. And so you can be around people with your same complexion and the values don't reflect your own.
That's true.
And so identifying the values, the paradigms, the way that you think, the way that others think, and understanding what environment you're a part of, it takes a little time sometimes to identify and be honest with that. But when I was able to take stock of that and get that all worked out, I realized I can't do this. And it's not because I can't do the work. It's not because I'm emotional right now. You can have emotions, but emotions can't be your decision maker. And so I took enough time to where it was an objective decision. And I said, you know what? Over a couple months, I said, this is my plan. This is what I'm going to do. Making that plan and making those steps, it didn't go like I planned for it to go.
Yeah.
I lost over 6 figures of income in that decision. The fallout perpetuated over a couple of years. And I lost partners to my ministry. I lost donors to charities that I run. I lost hundreds of people on social media and mailing lists and all of that. But at the end of the day, I had peace with God, and I had peace with myself, and I had peace with those that were around me, that these were the decisions I needed to make. And it took a little time, but God, as he always does, made up for all of that. And I only have him to thank for his faithfulness and his kindness, his mercy, his grace. But, there's no easy way sometimes to do what it is that you have to do. And sometimes you just have to do it. Better if you can do it when it's less costly. I'm still single. I don't have kids and a wife, and, the burden and the responsibilities of life where I couldn't suffer a while. I put my house in storage and I traveled and I made things work until I could recover what I needed to recover and, do what I need to do. But sometimes it's just like that. And we are in a real time of reckoning, as you use that word reckon. I think that is the epitome of where we are, is that, the world, this nation in particular, is having to reckon with things that are not easy to talk about and easy to deal with. There's a song that Common with, but he talks about being, and there's all these young babies that are talking about what they want to be when they grow up. And then he recites this poem, and he highlights all of the challenges almost sequentially that Blacks have gone through in the country and are going through. And I listen to that usually in the mornings over and over again because it's doing something in my intellect, and it's stirring questions there as well about very challenging things that Blacks have to wrestle with in this country. And one of the reasons that we have such a challenge is because of the layered problem of us even being in this country and the layered problem of our existence. You know, it's very, very complicated. And when you begin to answer complicated questions, it makes people very uncomfortable. I was talking to an executive from a large company in Detroit today, and he was sharing, we were talking about a panel that he was on. He's a white man, and he was on this panel with 4 of the white men, and he called it a mantle. And he said it's because it's a man panel full of only white guys. And he was saying how he had made a vow never to do that again. And, you know, he was just saying how much courage and how much grace and strength it takes to be Black in this country. And he was, you know, really laying it on thick. And I was like, yeah, that's fine or whatever. But, you know, at the end of the day, we have real issues that we need to solve, right, and real problems that need to be addressed. And we've had a long time of peace in this country. You know, we've had 4 or 5 decades of pretty significant peace. But what happens in peacetime is usually people forget the strength and the stories, and they get disconnected from the legacy that they're a part of. I believe that we are reconnecting with legacy and that we will be realizers of a lot of the unfinished business. There's a shedding that's going on right now. All of these African-American men and women that are stepping into executive roles, $1 billion of funding coming into their businesses, a lot more disposal revenue in the hands of African-Americans. It's not touching all of us. And that is my concern, is that there's still 48 million some odd of us that are yet to be impacted by this thing that's going on in the country. And so we need to begin to prepare for a larger dissemination of wealth and knowledge and access and equity. And those are very layered conversations that will take a lot of work to work through.
Yeah, I mean, everything you said, I'm in agreement. You kind of touched on something at the end there that is, it seems like that is becoming a significant thing for young professionals specifically. Obviously, our generation is, statistically speaking, is the most educated, one of the most educated groups of people in the country. But it's interesting. I was looking at some statistics about millennials specifically, and Gen Zers, but millennials specifically. We have lived through so many significant moments in American history over the last 3 decades that people don't realize has impacted us economically at a significant rate. For instance, I was looking at this thing and it was saying that millennials were between 5 and 20 when 9/11 happened. They were either in high school or early in their careers when the financial crisis of 2008 happened. And then we're now living through the pandemic. And so you have this group of people who have constantly had to figure out, how do I navigate my career at this particular moment? Dexter, I think what I wanted to ask you about that as relates to that is, because you've said so many potent and profound things, I just let you pontificate. But how, like, what some ways would you encourage people how to continue to push forward towards their vision? Because I think a lot of people have become extremely discouraged. No matter their race or background, they become extremely discouraged, especially in this moment. How can people push forward in career advancement or pursuing those things that you're talking about?
You have to stay connected, and you have to be a person that has been homeless. You're looking at a person that has been on food stamps. You're looking at a person who was in unemployment lines, WIC lines, EBT lines, you name it. I was in that line at some point in my life.
Yeah.
And you're also looking at a person who has had a lot of wins. I could sit here and recount wins in my life. I'm not going to do that, but God has been good to me in my career and in the span of my life.
I need you to.
But it wasn't. It wasn't this upward trajectory like this.
Right.
It didn't just coast. There's a statistic out that I read recently that was very interesting to me, addressing the fact that boomers are one of the most entitled groups in the country. And I thought, how is that possible? And they began to talk about the experience of boomers and really the cadence of their generation. They did have hits and things that happened, but the economic effects, for the most part, were upward decline in their space.
Right.
And so we are a little different. We're not counting on Social Security.
No.
Our access to wealth and money is a little bit different. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he was doing some assessments on earning and him wanting to earn a certain amount of money in his career. And the financial planner was letting him know, that's fine. But he was saying if you wanted to earn $150,000 today, in 25 years, you'd need to be earning $278,000 a year. And so the cost of money is changing. Cash flow is adjusting, the time value of money. There's so many things that we have to be on point with and aware of and engaged with. And this generation has to be 10 times wiser.
Yeah.
This is literally the Daniel generation. I love Joshua. He's a great guy. And I appreciate everything he's done. I'm not making light of that personification. But Daniel, this is the year and this is the season and this is the window where you need to be 10 times wiser. And I challenge people to become hybrid. Don't just do the thing that you want to do. And don't just count on the place where you've been able to make money. Learn something that you don't know anything about and begin engaging in arenas and industries that you know nothing about, and learn something new. Right now, I'm orchestrating a workforce development and a learning credential for the mobility industry, and we're preparing talent for the future of these mobility careers. There's over 115,000 jobs that we are working on alone. There will be millions of jobs created. Now, millions of jobs will also be eliminated. Right. But the challenge that we're having is, and that you're seeing on the national stage really, is people not wanting to learn and people not wanting to change. The whole oil and gas industry really would have to shift to an electrified industry. And the problem is that they see themselves as an oil industry. If they saw themselves as an energy industry, they wouldn't have a problem stepping away from oil and gas and moving into electrification. And so that is the challenge, is how do you see yourself and how do you perceive what's happening? Do you see change as problematic and something that takes away from you, or is change an opportunity that you can lean into and engage? And so I challenge people, no matter how hard it is and no matter how confused you are about where you are, check in, learn something new, do work that you may feel is beneath you. I actually have taken demotions in my career to get where I wanted to go. And so it wasn't a matter of me saying, I'm worth this and I'm not willing to do. No, I was willing to step down or step back in order to be thrust forward. Sometimes you have to be able to step back to get forward.
Wow, that's such wisdom what you just said. And it made me think about where I am in my career right now. So Dex, I work for a financial institution. Those who listen or watch Leading know that. And I've realized that I've been trying for the last 2 years to get out of this job because I'm so sick of being a teller, but that's what my mindset is. But it's interesting that you've even said that, because I think I recently had a realization is that everything that I've been learning about money and learning about just financial literacy in some ways, even though we don't talk about it enough at my job in some ways, but just being in an environment where money is always in conversation, and finding out about mortgages and finding out about shared secure loans and all these, other opportunities that people have to address, their economic things. It's been interesting to me to see how I personally have learned so much in the process of just working there. And, you know, they're now trying to push everybody to become credit union advisors now and stuff like that, and try to push everybody to gain some other skills. And even they're trying to certify everybody. In my head, I'm like, this is not necessarily relevant to me in some way, shape, or form or fashion. But if I got this thing to fall back on as a career, or fall back on it because I have a certification in the space, it actually makes me more valuable. So,
Yes.
so talk about how some of those emotions added value to your career, because I don't think you, Dexter, if I know anything about you, I don't think you take demotions without being strategic about them. So
Right.
what are some things that you have done in taking demotions to actually propel your career forward?
Well, sometimes demotions, I've had demotions that I actually got paid more. So in the systems that I was in, I wasn't being paid what I was worth. And there were times in my career where I took gigs that didn't pay me what I was worth, but I wanted access. I wanted entry to learn something different. And so a lot of times you will have an opportunity that presents itself that won't look like the opportunity that you want. And a lot of people are saying, you know, I'm worth this and I ain't gonna do this. And I understand. There's a point for that. But a lot of times, I was thinking about this before the call. I was thinking of Bishop James, and a quote that says is in my mind when I'm working hard. He says, "I will work you under the table." And I'm the same way. You know, I will literally, we're gonna get off this call, and I'm gonna work until probably 1 o'clock in the morning, and that is gonna be what it is because I get in a zone at night, and I can really think and get clear, and that's my sweet spot. But people will look at a demotion, or they will look at work that is less than them. One of my favorite African American stories is the story of Booker T. Washington. And Booker T, you know, he tells about the different changes in his life. One of the things that he shares is when they were building Tuskegee University, he required that the students help him manually build all of the buildings, 100 and some odd buildings. They built them and they created the bricks. I mean, they built everything. And he said students left over that. There would be students like, I'm not doing this, I'm better than this, and I'm not gonna do this. And he made it his point to get out there with the students, and he was building right along with them as the president of the university. And I think that we underestimate the power of rhythm. You were talking about being a teller and the familiarity that a teller has with money and counting money and handling money. What it is, it normalizes you to handling large sums of money, small sums of money. You have to understand all of that, appreciating every dollar's value. $1.01 error is problematic. One decimal error is hugely problematic. And so we have to be attentive to detail. We have to be focused. These are things that you're learning in the peripheral that are going into your subconscious and becoming a part of the fiber of who you are. And there's no match for that. Right now, I have Fortune 100 companies that are my clients, and they are wanting workforce development tools to prepare people to do jobs that will earn anywhere between 80 and 120,000 a year.
Wow.
These are going to be great careers for people, you know, it could change their lives. And the thing that we're looking for is, are they nimble enough to learn something new? People with degrees have been cumbersome to us because they come in assenting themselves, thinking that they know more, wanting to change things, and not actually coming with a skill set. Wow. So we sit at the center of government, education, and industry, trying to problem solve. And how do we get these people ready? So the credential you referenced earlier, credentialing and certificates are going to be very, very competitive in the future because things are coming into the market and online that we don't really need you to go to university and get a master's. And, you know, it's not necessary for some of the technical jobs that are coming.
Right. And I'm getting a master's right now. So
you go get your master's.
which I'm almost done. Praise God. Or you was getting too much money from me. But continue, as you were saying, I'm sorry.
And I love higher education. I worked in higher education for a certain amount of time in my career, and love that space, and learning is extremely important. We will always need people that are masters in their field,
Right.
doctors in their field.
Right.
I'm just saying there are opportunities that await us that if we are on our high horse, that we're going to miss those opportunities. And so I strategically took things that would put me in new environments where I would be forced to learn something different. Wow. I remember when I left Tulsa, this has been 5 or 6 years ago, I was really sad because I had established a base. I had worked really hard to do that. And, I felt like all of that was being ripped from under me. And God just had to get me one day. I was like at home and I just was in a bad mood. And he was like, wake up. He's like, dude, I've doubled your income. I've set you in a different environment. It feels foreign and you don't feel like you belong here. But this is something that I need you to master and learn.
Yeah.
And Lee, that was one of the most valuable experiences in my life, that season, because it forced me. It was the eagle. Eagles have to be stirred out of their nest.
Yeah.
And the twigs in the nest, the mother eagle moves the nest so that the twigs poke the eagle until it becomes so painful it forces them to fly. And so God will do that to us. He will push us until we are forced to fly and figure it out. And that's sometimes the best way, just throwing you into the deep end.
Yeah. I think that's a great response. It's something that you kind of touched at, and I have maybe 3 more questions after this, but it's something you kind of touched on a little bit earlier and kind of tied into your answer just a second ago. You kind of touched on the way the market is changing as it relates to career readiness and how jobs are changing. I was looking at something just recently. I found Dexter, I don't know what it is, but I think this is probably why I work at a credit union and all these different things, and why I think a lot about money now, and why I'm watching stuff about money and trying to figure out how money works. And I was literally today, I was listening to John Hope Bryant, and he was talking about money, I realized that because the market is changing, something I was looking at, and I was sharing with some people about how the World Economic Forum actually put out a report last year that 85 million jobs are going to be lost over the next 5 years. And then you have this other reality of there's so many people, like you said, that are not ready for fulfillment. What are some ways, in your opinion, that people can try to get certifications and try to get certain things? Because one of the other issues too is some people are the fear of going back to school or getting a certification is, number one, they may not have the money.
Right.
Secondly, they may feel as if they're at a point in their career where pivoting is hard. And thirdly, some people are just going to be stuck in their ways. So how do we motivate people to actually take that step or move in some way, shape, form, or fashion to stay in a career?
Can I be brutally honest?
Please.
No one has time to motivate you. Your preacher may have time. So ask your preacher, will you motivate me to change? But nobody has time to do that. Now, the other two questions, I can answer those. Don't worry about where the money is coming from. I'm the one, there are other people out here that are worrying about that.
Yeah.
So there are so many things. All you have to do is identify what it is that you are willing to do.
Yeah.
And the stronger your no's are, the clearer your yeses are. And I would encourage you to get very clear about what your yeses are going to be. I had never really even thought about the primary client that I work with right now is in mobility. And I never would have thought that I would be doing things in this space. And I don't know what your audience is on this call, if people believe in the prophetic and God's voice and all of that. But I got a word, somebody prophesied over me that I was going to be an entrepreneurial engineer. And I was like, huh? Like, it was so left field. But I take the word of the Lord very seriously. And this guy was the real deal. I wrote down everything that he said. And about a year later, it came to pass where this contract activated, and I'm working with engineers as an entrepreneur, and I'm organizing, choreographing entire processes for workforce development. I'm right now negotiating deals with General Motors, Ford Motor Company. I mean, it's crazy the things that are happening, and you don't have to worry about it. Like literally, state governments through the pandemic are getting millions of dollars to fund workforce trade and programs and certifications.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, if you find the opportunity, all you have to do is ask, and there's money there.
Yeah.
So right now, I was actually on a call today. We're trying to figure out how do we connect funding for these certifications. So, we'll be offering a certification. I'll be posting it on my page probably in the next couple of weeks through the Michigan Mobility Institute. It's not just for Michigan, anybody can take it, but it'll be a course called Mobility Ready. There will be 3 modules. We'll teach mobility fundamentals, job skills, soft skills, preparing people to step into leadership roles within these companies. Right now, I think it's something like 315 jobs on my desk right now that we just don't have people trained. We need people trained. So there's more than enough opportunity. You've got to figure out, what am I skilled at and what am I willing to do? And be willing to do something that you don't know anything about. We get into these boats sometimes. Well, this is what I'm called to do. This is who I am. You don't even know who fully you are. Just take a chance. If it doesn't work out, time and chance happen to us all. We move forward, but take a chance.
Yeah. I love that answer. I love that answer. I'm gonna get to these last few questions. I'm gonna give you the last few questions.
Let's do it.
Dex, you have given me some heavyweight, meaty, gritty stuff that I think people, when they watch and listen to this episode, it's gonna challenge them to actually take steps and take control of this moment in their lives, because so many people have been so disenchanted by even being motivated to look for a job now.
Wow.
Like, it's difficult trying to live through a whole pandemic and losing people and losing relationships and all this kind of stuff. The level of loss in our culture is unprecedented in a lot of ways. Our country has been through a lot before, but I think the mental weight,
this is different.
Yeah, this is not normal for people. So no. I think that's a lot. So this is one of my last questions for you. How are you paying it forward? This is something that was literally asked to me by a woman who has played a significant role in my life, especially the last few years. She actually runs human resources within the company that I work for, and I had her on the podcast and blog last year. But she always talks to me about paying it forward. So I want to ask you that question: how are you paying it forward in your career with the people that you're connected to and the work that you do?
Well, very specifically, I'll say mentoring. That would be the essence of how. I just believe in the power of it. I think that mentoring is one of the biggest gifts that you can give a person. I look at how my life has been changed, and it's been the people that were willing to touch my life, bring me along, and just let me learn something new. So mentoring, bringing people into my space, giving of my time. On the Saturday, fourth Saturday of every month, we have a virtual mentoring network through the Man to Man project that I lead, and doing that with Jelani Matthews, who was our leader for the project from 2014 to 2015. And we've teamed up through his organization, Empower Mentorships and Man to Man, to do the virtual mentoring network with young boys and young men. It's been a phenomenal run doing that with him. And then through the BLAC Coalition, that is a policy think tank group where we're leading and serving in our communities by organizing thinkers and thought leaders to begin to build policies around what are solutions for the Black community and how do we realize that. And so I spend a good portion. Lee is in it. Yes. And I spend a lot of my day fundraising I submitted a couple of grant applications today. We're pushing to increase our ability to invest in communities. We've got a project here in the city where we are creating affordable housing, business incubators, entrepreneurial training, all under one roof. And so we want to duplicate that in 10 cities around the country over the decade. And we just believe that it's going to happen. And then, man, just doing something kind every day. I think sometimes we can get really dramatic with it. And, sometimes when we measure ourselves against others, it's just not fair. And so just doing something small every day, I've made it a point of mine to hire BLAC. And so I have people that work with me and for me that are African-American, and a lot of times they can be uncomfortable in some of the rooms that we're in. I make sure I spend a lot of time with them, getting them to believe that they are good enough and worthy enough to express themselves in excellence in any environment and to be the highest level of them. Right. They don't have to put on a face and be other. They can be them. They just have to be the best level of them. And so coaching people into that level of excellence.
Wow. That's great, Dex. So here's my second to last question for you. Who and what are you reading? I think this is super important for people to know.
Okay. I read a lot. I'm always reading something. Today I read I read a neighborhood development plan for Detroit of an area that I'm considering investing in. So that's what I read today. And then I read a little bit of Up From Slavery by Booker T. Washington. I'm reading through that for Black History Month. I'm a messy reader. I'm reading the life and legacy of Robert Smalls. He was actually an African-American that convinced Abraham Lincoln to allow Blacks to fight in the Civil War. He stole a ship from the Confederacy and brought it over to the Union side and commandeered the ship, and then took it, and they fought with the Union in the war. So brilliant stories. I love things like that. I read like 24 books last year. I'm going to try to beat that this year. I do a lot of reading clubs, so I'm not always choosing those books, but yeah, man, that's what I'm reading right now.
That's fantastic. And my last question, it's kind of a fun question. What song would you describe yourself? Would you use to describe yourself, and why? I'm gonna give you like 30 seconds to think about it.
A song.
Yes.
That describes me.
Yes. What song would you use to describe yourself, and why?
This one is a little heavy, and I'm just gonna tell you. So, my favorite song right now is Faith in Love by Gregory Porter. And
great artist.
Oh, I love Gregory, man. Ooh. He's amazing. That song, though, is very telling of just my heart and just kind of how I see love. He talks about how love is the only thing that we serve. I open my luggage and I find a couple of broken hearts in there, but I'm still willing to love. That's definitely a big part of the essence of who I am. Not just in the romantic space, that's a big part of it, but in friendships, in career, in legacy, and all of it. You're gonna have disappointments, you're gonna have mistakes, you're gonna have losses, but you will have wins. And even if you're not experiencing them now, you can't lose faith and love. You gotta keep believing and keep moving it forward.
Yeah. Well, Dex, man, thank you for your time, my friend.
Absolutely, really, man. Really, it was a pleasure. It was an honor. Thank you.
I'm super excited for people to hear this and be inspired by everything you have to say and realize that they can make a difference in the world. So thanks again, brother. All right.
No, thank you. Thank you, man.
Thank you for watching and or listening to this week's episode of Leading with Lee. If you have not done it yet, subscribe today on YouTube and all podcasting platforms. To get more information about me and what I'm doing, email me at scottconsultations@gmail.com or follow me on social media on Twitter and especially Instagram at Lee A. Scott II or Lee A. Scott II. Thank you for watching this week's episode. I really appreciate it. Much love, and let's get started.